Dr. Maud Reynolds' legal cases, and one of the defendants that was listed in that case, well, it was probably, I think, started about last April, so we're talking, 8-9 months ago. One of the names that's listed in the defendants actually came up in our, research into the Hutchison effect, and so that really jumped out. And John confirmed to us that, these guys were involved, and he even went as far as giving us the names of a couple of people who were involved. So we were thinking, this is just unbelievable.
It's interesting, the radio broadcast, the Art Bell one, that was a couple of months before the NIST report, final NIST report came out. I've got that audio clip on the top of that new series. And here, John is just talking about how it's weird. The past 10 months has been this flurry of activity. I've had folks from NASA contacting me, folks from the Pentagon, and folks from some company called SAIC, whatever that stands for. How interesting that just before the NIST report, the final report comes out, he has this flurry of contacts.
Absolutely, and we've seen a few repeated themes of that, in the stuff that we've done, and I think the key in all of this question is the energy, I've been saying to a few people that I've had a chance to speak to while I'm here, that we really now do stand at a juncture, and looking at what's happened at the World Trade Center, I think, is one of the huge keys to everything that's going on in the world right now. And this has been so much of a revelation to me over the last year, and particularly in the last few weeks. I'm thinking that a lot of the other global issues fade into insignificance because of the energy issue. We've essentially now, what I would like to steal a phrase from somebody who's across the room from me at the moment, we think that the destruction of the World Trade Center was the disclosure that almost infinite, almost free energy exists. And because of that, we've seen that technology has been taken up by some group of people somewhere. I don't know who they are, but they have taken that technology. People like John Hutchison are still doing parlor tricks with it, and will continue to do so, thankfully. And they've taken it and they've turned it into a weapon. So rather than using it to mitigate the effects of global warming, or this, or any issue, pick an issue basically, they have turned it into a weapon, and they used it to create a fake war on terror. Those are the facts now as I see them. And I really challenge anybody to come up with some data which will refute these conclusions.
It's amazing with cars being burned, but there's almost no paper burn.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, that goes right back to the pictures of the fires. I mean, Judy's particularly picked out one on the website, which we've got one of the FDNY personnel. He's actually seems to be almost walking through this fire. It's bizarre, and
just dust and paper flowing.
Yeah. So again, what energy source did this? Well, we now think we know, because John has given us all the pictures of the stuff that he's been doing. I think one of the other things we didn't mention that Judy's got a good study on is the rust, and this is something that John has seen with some of the stainless steel samples that he sent us. He's seen rusting, which is very unusual in the terms of the
stainless steel.
Yeah, rusting. With a very, very short time scale, so that yet another characteristic that we've got there. And the other thing again, which you'll find on the web page, is the holes. John has got samples with bars, and he's fired the beams at these bars, and they've got a hole, a void, a hollowed out section in the middle of the bar. And Judy's very nicely put together that picture on the one side, and then a picture of World Trade Center Building 6, isn't it, on the other.
With voids, there's just nothing left in the building. There's just no material there.
Yeah. So again, that's another characteristic that seems to tie up quite well.
There's another one that I've become fascinated with is round holes in windows.
Round holes
Yeah.
in windows?
Yeah, like just somebody took a circular cutout of the window, and there's no other cracks much in it.
Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest thing that we've forgotten up to now, Judy, is one of the key factors that came up in this Hutchison effect report said that the effect wasn't always self-quenching, and what that means is
If there's enough mass, too much mass of the object, they found it's not self-quenching. And you remember in October when I was up there, seeing the dirt getting moved in and out, and still seeing the fuming puffs come out of the ground.
Right. What is the explanation for all that dirt, the truckloads of dirt?
And it's interesting, I've got a section in this new series where you see that they've cut down to the old PATH train station that was built in the early 1900s, 1915, around there. And it's just all concrete, and then pretty soon you see they're hauling dirt out of there. This past November. Why the dirt arrived to have to be hauled out? They're not excavating down, because there's pictures where they're down lower, busting up the concrete.
Yeah.
Dirt is used for cleaning up toxic spills, like when they cleaned up after Chernobyl.
Mm-hmm.
Bring in dirt, haul it out. Bring in new dirt, haul it out. And it also has become apparent that they are building a concrete vault around Ground Zero that goes down almost 10 stories.
Mm.
How did they get rid of nuclear waste?
Yeah.
Concrete vaults.
And this whole idea, I think, that there's an ongoing reaction. In other words, the effects of the technology don't always finish when you turn off the energy. The nuclear process, this domino toppling effect, and John has observed this as well with some of the samples that he's made. The domino toppling effect seems to go on after you switch the energy off. And we think this is what's happening at Ground Zero. The residual effects of the energy, where the bits of material continually breaking down at a molecular level, is still happening. And they're trying to kind of put the dirt in there to soak up the effects of this nuclear, ongoing low-level nuclear reaction, and taking it out. So,
in Banker's Trust, I'd like to mention, they had that gash in the front, which I believe was where it got infected.
this was a steel beam which was ejected from the World Trade Center. And
it looked like that, but I
Right.
think that was just hanging in the gas that was from other reasons. But
okay.
the picture I have of the snowball cloud, it rubbed down the front of that of Banker's Trust, and I think that's how it got infected. But in any case, they didn't realize the building was in that bad a shape, and they tried repairing it. And there's pictures I have on the site of Banker's Trust being repaired. They repaired that gash, put in new floors, and then they realized the problem is still continuing, and that's when they decided, I think it was in 2004, decided they needed to take the building apart. And it's been this horrendous series of fumbling and bumbling as to why the building is still not taken apart. I think it's because it's this huge problem. So they start taking it apart, and they get to that area that was repaired, and there's huge rust in those beams adjacent to that area. I call it furry rust. It looks like it's been at the bottom of the ocean for 100 years. Where adjacent beams do not look like that in other areas. So this is something that is continuing to come